Time to kick in the VTEC, yo.
Wizard, this don't got VTEC. It's way before that.
Oh, that's right. This one's before VTEC. Anyways, never mind. Let's find out what's wrong with this really sweet Civic. Let's get started. This is a 1991 Honda Civic S. And compared to some of them I've seen on the road, most of these are destroyed by now. This one's actually in decent condition, but it still has a lot of things that need to be done to it. The customer's been slowly trying to fix it up and do some things to it and get it to a better condition. They've kind of run into some issues. Let's take a look around this thing a little bit, and then we'll talk about what is the customer's goals, what did they hope to achieve here, and then we'll go further from there. These have a really cool front end. I've always loved the styling of this era of Hondas. It does have some faded paint on the bumper and also up on the hood. There's some clear coat peeling. Some fading on the top of the fender here. It does have some very small 14-inch wheels, back when 14s were the thing. It's missing some trim molding along the belt line there. As we come around to the back, you can see it has some aftermarket tail lights. It is a Civic Si. And the paint is faded as well on the back here. It's decent on the passenger side though. Let's go ahead and jump under the hood. So customer has been replacing parts on this already. They have an alternator, a battery, an oxygen sensor. They've been chasing some issues on this and it's starting to get kind of expensive. Have you ever felt the world is just out to get you? There's so many things we have to keep up with, from keeping your car on the road, food on the table, and ensuring your family is safe. It seems impossible to keep up. Prices of car parts and food has gone through the roof, and to learn your digital data has been exposed again. You feel like you want to pull all your hair out. Recently, Dell had a breach that exposed 3.9 million customer records. Ticketmaster had over 560 million records exposed. But most alarming of all, National Public Data announced they had suffered a major breach, potentially impacting every American. Over 2.9 billion records used for their background checks like full names, addresses, date of birth, phone numbers, and most importantly, social security numbers were exposed. I can keep your car safe, but I can't keep your digital data safe. Thankfully, I know today's sponsor, Aura, will. They monitor your personal data, including your social security number, on billions of data points like websites, the dark web, and public court records. Aura offers 24/7 monitoring and several features to keep you safe, including real-time data breach alerts, secure VPN browsing, and more. It's a new year and time to make good changes in your life. Let Aura be the easiest and safest resolution you do this year. I'm not leaving myself and my family vulnerable to data breaches. If you don't want to either, you need to go to aura.com/carwizard to try for 2 weeks free. That will be enough time for Aura to find out if any of your personal data has been exposed. Now back to this really sweet Civic. So the customer states they've had some issues with the check engine light coming on at random times, usually having a code for the oxygen sensor. They replaced the oxygen sensor and it still does it. The AC isn't working. They had some issues with stalling, which could be in conjunction with the oxygen sensor, an oil leak, a few other small issues. Let's take a look under this hood. Here is our little 1.6 liter Honda 4-cylinder. We can also see they have replaced the distributor assembly as well, which is common on these. Oil can actually get inside of there when one of the oil seals goes bad and fill it full of oil. It has a new battery. It also has a new oxygen sensor, which is removed at the moment because Danielson is doing some checking on it. But we do see a new timing belt as well. You can see you can hardly read it, but there's some information there, but you can tell that it's been done here not too long ago. And in the back there, you see a brand new alternator. This has an older version of OBD. It's called OBD0. It's not even OBD1. It doesn't really have a diagnostic connector. You just count the flashes and whatnot and get the codes. You can do some harness modification to these, Danielson tells me, and get where you can read data and whatnot, but outside of that, there's not much you can do. It has a code 01, which is indicating a failure of the oxygen sensor. But we're going to show you what we found with that, what we're diving into, and what it possibly could be. But let's show you what we found with the air conditioning and why it's not working. This would be an older R12 system, and we can tell right off the bat someone previous to this shop has converted it over to 134. We can see right here, it has the adapter and everything. Danielson has actually done some leak testing and found that the other port, which is down below there, you can kind of see where it's soldered onto the joint. I'm wiggling the mirror, but the solder is actually leaking where the valve attaches to the pipe down there, so it needs the entire pipe replaced. So this is not a catastrophic failure. Just get that one little metal pipe and get it replaced. If we can't find a replacement, we could possibly try to solder it, but we'll try to see if we can replace it. Probably just as cheap and easy to do that. But it's not catastrophic. It doesn't need a new AC compressor or anything else. Everything else is fine. So we'll get that taken care of. Their AC will work again. And it's a good thing because the AC compressor on these is $800 to $1,000. They're kind of hard to find, and when you do find them, they're very expensive on these older Honda models, on these Civics. Before we dive into the electrical issues with the O2 sensor, let's let Mrs. Wizard show you guys around the interior. You definitely want to follow along because it's got very expensive interior mods. Take it away, Mrs. Wizard.
Okay, you ready for one crazy interior review? You're about to have one. Dash here is normal, but I guarantee not much is going to look normal after this. But it does say 181,628 miles. Wow. But it really doesn't look so bad in there. It's very simple, easy to read gauge cluster. We move up. The dash is looking nice. I don't see anything, broken or spilling out. All the louvers are still in our vents. Nice. And then we go down. All the stuff surrounding this should be there, but it's not. And it's not even included with the car this time. So the customer definitely has added a few things, or taken them away rather. There's your glove box, well, lack thereof. As we move down, there is the floor mat. Yes, you're seeing a lot of metal. There is no carpet in here. Here is our gear selector. Yes, that's all there is to it. And we do have the emergency brake. As we move to our seats, they do have covers on them, and I'm not sure how it looks on the underneath, but it doesn't seem that they seem to be there underneath. Maybe they're protecting good seats. The door card is totally missing. There is some soundproof plastic there. That's what we'll call it. We'll call it soundproof plastic. You can get out at least. You can't roll down the window, but this would be a good time to change the speakers out if you needed to. And normally we don't start with the headliner, we normally end with it, but I thought this would be a fun way for you to see the back cavernous oasis of nothingness back here. Okay, there is nothing back here at all. Lots of red paint. Yes, and what is that we see? That's the concrete. There's concrete over there. We can see the ground. But the advantage is if you did need to change out your back shocks, now would be the time to do it because you can actually get to them quite easily. And just in case you're wondering, no, there is no door card on the driver's side as well. And the only option you have is you can open it and you can close it by pulling on this lovely, metal bracket. The one nice thing is, look at the steering wheel. It's in great condition. It's not blistered, it's not chipped, it's not falling apart. It is extra shiny from all that 181,000 miles that have been put on this thing. But this is looking pretty good. The only feature it has is a horn. No airbag, no buttons, nothing. Okay, so let's maybe get this up in the air so we can figure out why I'm seeing light from the inside in my rocker panels.
Let's go ahead and take a look under this little Civic and see if we can find the oil leak. Danielson's actually coated the bottom of the engine with a leak trace powder. It's kind of a spray. You first have to clean the engine off with brake cleaner or whatever. Then you put this powder on, and then if there's any leaks, it shows up really easily, and we think we've got it figured out. It does have all these little underbelly kind of trays in place, which is good. What we see right here, there's nothing else leaking but this drain plug sealing washer. It's actually starting to develop a drip. And as you're driving, this will blow, the wind will blow it. You can see it's kind of oily mess back here. And that's where our leak is coming from. It's not from higher up because it would be all over the steering rack and everywhere else. It's just right here, and it's blowing straight back onto the floor pan here. Let's take a look at these brakes. Brakes look like brand new. CV boot is good there, and this other one is way over here. It looks good. It does look like it has a boot torn here. Let the customer know about that on the tie rod end. Sway bar link and bushing is good. Brakes are good. Strut is good. Nothing seriously loose, but we do see a torn boot again here. And sway bar link and bushing is good there too. Looks like they put a new catalytic converter on. Hopefully the tweakers didn't get to them. Probably not. Probably just failed. So it's got that replaced. Got a little bitty exhaust all the way back. There's a little resonator chamber. And everything looks good on the floor pans until we get to here. It's got rubber undercoating on the rest, but right here it rusted pretty bad. Danielson couldn't even put it at the normal jack point right here. He had to move it to this part of the suspension because, as you can see, you wouldn't be able to put any kind of a lift arm on there, and it's rusted pretty bad. Mrs. Wizard showed you guys through the interior she could see concrete, and yes, you can see all the way up in there, all the way into the interior. So
or lack thereof.
Yeah, so that's not very good. On the driver's side, it's not as bad, but it's starting to get that way. You can still see up into the interior through here. But yeah, it's pretty crusty. You see it does have some sort of aftermarket control arms here. We have drum brakes in the back. The struts are good. They look like they've been replaced recently. Sway bar link is good. Sway bar link is good here. Strut is good. Nothing loose. Look at the tiny little exhaust tips, Mrs. Wizard.
They are so cute.
The tiny little things. Well, we have an oil leak we found. It's coming from the oil pan drain plug, and we found some serious rust going on. I think the customer's aware of it, so other than that, nothing too bad. The tie rod end boots are torn, but let's get this thing back on the ground.
Oh, Wizard, that took so long to get to the ground. I think you have more gray in your beard.
Yeah, it doesn't hardly weigh anything, especially with the interior removed. As I said, a lot of expensive mods in the interior. But it keeps having a code for oxygen sensor failure. And as you can see, the customer has replaced it. It's an NTK made in Japan, good quality one. We've been doing some testing. Danielson found that this is actually working. And the next thing he's going to be checking, we're still waiting on him to dive a little deeper into the actual ECM. There could be issues inside. I'll take the cover off. We'll take a look. There we go. He's going to be looking at all these little pins. There could be a cracked solder joint or something like that that's not getting a good reading to the ECM. But if the ECM proves to be fine and our sensor is proving to be fine, the final step is to go wire diving. All through the harness there could be a torn or a cut or shorted wire. It's just a single wire to the oxygen sensor. It's just got one little wire there. And we'll get to the bottom of it. That'll solve the issue with the check engine light coming on after you drive it for a little while. It'll also take care of possibly the stalling issue that it's been having, which is very likely caused by whatever's going on with this oxygen sensor. So we have found out what's wrong with the AC. We found out where the oil leak is. We are still diving into the oxygen sensor issue. There's a few other small things, and the customer says that's where they're going to draw the line. They are pretty mechanically inclined. They're doing some, I guess, a restoration on this car. And these are a few issues. They just can't seem to get over the hump, and we'll help them get over it for them.
So could that new cat be responsible for this?
No, this is an old enough car. It doesn't have catalyst monitoring, so there's no O2 sensor in the back. The only one it has up here on the exhaust manifold itself. Unless the catalytic converter was plugged, which that wouldn't cause it to have O2 sensor failure code. But it drives fine, it runs fine, the cat's not plugged, it's brand new. It's having an electrical issue with the O2 sensor. It's not with the cat. This is how you diagnose these types of issues. It's kind of divide and conquer. Process of elimination is what I like to also use. It's not this, we can move that aside. It's not this, move that aside. And eventually the only thing you're left with is the true culprit, the problem. So like I said, we're going to take care of those few issues to get customer over the hump, get them past the difficult spots that they're having, and then they can take it from there and continue doing their little dream of getting this thing back on the road. And I really am enthusiastic for them about this car. I love these old Civics. They're so hard to find anymore in decent shape. Most of them are just destroyed. They've been wrecked, they've been modified, tore up, just trashed. This one, with a little work, could be really, really nice. If you're curious what kind of tools Danielson used to diagnose this car or that we use to work on any other cars in the shop, check our Amazon affiliates link in the description below. A lot of the tools we use in the shop are listed for sale there. If you purchase anything, we get a small cut and really appreciate it. Make sure to hit the subscribe button because we have many more cool videos to come. Thanks for watching.